Welcome to Around the Blockchain. My name is DZ, also known as Ice DZ. Today we are talking about Tesla. What does it mean for Bitcoin? Any overlap there? And also, is this the end of Solana, now under $10? It's going to be a good episode. On the top right, we have holding it down from another friend from the desert. It is Brad Varnell. Make sure you follow him over there, Infinite Crypto. Then on the bottom right, Caleb Franzen. You can always hear him dropping knowledge bombs in those Twitter spaces. Highly recommend you follow his Twitter account. Really great stuff on there. On the bottom left, we have Cassius. Actually dropped a freestyle last time he won. You have to go back a few episodes. Check that one out. Good stuff. And then on the top left, we have Mine Your Biz. Maybe you'll see a weird filter in the future. Who knows? He's been getting a little wacky lately. It's going to be a great episode. Let's actually lead with the market watch since we are talking about Tesla, Bitcoin, and then we might head into looking at that Tesla stock. We are, firmly in the red, just not a whole lot. We see Bitcoin only down 1%, but the rest of the market took that as a sign, except for Justin Sun. Justin Sun didn't get the memo, but everybody else took a sign. You know what? Let's head down a little bit, but the story of today is Tesla, and if you look at this 5-year chart, you can see we are now reaching levels not seen since August, so 2020, so firmly in the midst of the pandemic. If we look at the 1-year chart, you're going to see a lot of pain touching 400, now currently 112, and if we just look at the last 30 days, you're seeing something similar, only down from 200 down to the current level. So we're seeing a lot of pain with Tesla. Now, Caleb, you actually just tweeted about Tesla this morning. You did a pretty good thread. What are your thoughts on Tesla's current state in the market?
We're essentially just seeing cascading pricing pressure here, right? So kind of the madness of crowds and irrational exuberance works in both directions. Clearly, we had that with Tesla stock leading into the fourth quarter of last year, and so now we're seeing the exact opposite today. And so I think a lot of this is obviously self-induced harm from Elon Musk and some of the Twitter activity and investors being a little bit concerned and fearful about his attention shifting towards Twitter. Whatever the case is, all I know is that growth stocks, tech stocks, long duration assets don't perform well when liquidity is getting pulled out of the market. And when rates continue to go up, we're going to see more pressure like this continue to unfold. So, we've seen a lot of cascading price pressure here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a solid kind of dead cat bounce here. In fact, I expect it. I just don't know exactly when it'll come. But I don't necessarily think that the downtrend is over. I would expect that to continue for the months ahead.
All right, yeah, you talk about the downtrend. I actually have some hard data here. Right now, we are currently down 56% just in the last 90 days. And if you look from that all-time high, close to 70% drawdown on that stock price. Got into the news, Mind Your Biz, when they bought a little bit of Bitcoin. Elon, he tweeted about it, I think it was December of 2020. There's the huge news. He's, him and Michael Saylor, they started getting buddy, talking all these Fortune 500 CEOs, mainstream adoption is right around this corner. I want to ask you, how did you feel when that first happened? Did you feel that there was going to be a domino effect with some of these other Fortune 500 company CEOs? I certainly did, and then it didn't pan out. What were your thoughts at the time, and why do you think it didn't pan out?
Well, first things first, thanks for having me back on the show. It's always a pleasure being here with the BitSquad, and I can't wait to go to the new home for Around the Blockchain in January of 2023. The pleasure getting to meet new friends. Haven't been on a stream with Caleb, and haven't been on Around the Blockchain with Cassius ever, so this is going to be great. But my take on it is, DZ, we see eye to eye on that one. I did see it as being kind of a counter indicator. It not necessarily a top signal, so to speak. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's a top signal." No, it wasn't a top signal. It is kind of a sign of the times, though, and that is that crypto and Bitcoin, more particularly, has reached that mainstream adoption landmark that we all wanted it to. That it's kind of gone mainstream in terms of getting the institutional buyers and the institutional money into place, but with that, right, when you get that institutional money, you get those institutional manipulations, and you get some of those negative externalities, such as, that domino effect. If something goes wrong with Bitcoin, well, everybody that's got Bitcoin on the balance sheet is going to have exposure to it, right? Indirect, but they're going to have that indirect exposure to the downsides of Bitcoin. And when anybody has that exposure to the stock of a company that is holding Bitcoin, then they're just along for the ride, right? It's a bit of an issue all around. So if you want Bitcoin, look at the native asset. If you're interested in a company and its actual product market fit and what it actually brings that's valuable to a given vertical, then just look at that alone. But I'm for one, personally, I'm tired of companies trying to hitch their wagon to the Bitcoin star as though that's what makes them unique. No, bring something of value to the market, then I'll invest in your company. I don't care that you have Bitcoin.
All right. Well, you bring up a good point. Brad Varnell, he's talking about, with with institutional adoption, where you're then going to get institutional manipulation. My question to you is, let's just say more Fortune 500 company CEOs, they do decide to make that purchase, just to say 1%. So that would be 5. We have 5 companies that did it. Would they be more diamond-handed than retail, or would they be more of a paper hand than retail? Let's just say it goes up, then 4 years later, 3.5 years later, and then it starts to go down. Who's going to panic sell first? A Fortune 500 CEO or average Joe trader watching at home?
Hey, good to be here again. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. And I think that the retail investors always kind of scare out a little bit faster than the Fortune 500 guys. They're businessmen. They understand the ebb and flow of things. And so, in my opinion, I think the retail will get scared out. But at the same time, the Fortune 500 guys have stockholders that they got to worry about, people that they got to keep happy. So within reason, they can't just totally diamond hand it all the way to the bottom either, because even if they understand the cycles and know that holding it long term, it's going to go, 150,000 this next cycle, and maybe 3, 4, 500,000, and in 10 or 15 years, it's going to be 1 million. That's fantastic, but it doesn't necessarily make their stockholders happy as they watch it go from the 150 back down to 30 or 40. So I think there'll be a combination of the two, but in my opinion, retail will kind of shake out quicker, and then the big boys would probably follow along at some point in time.
All right. And now, Cassius, what do you think of those odds? Do you think some more big boys are going to follow up this time? This bear market, is there going to be another Tesla, another big company that says, hey, we just bought, 500 Bitcoin, 1,000 Bitcoin? Is this a possibility? And what kind of, if you're a betting man, what kind of odds would you put on that?
Well, happy holidays. Thanks for having me on. I do think that's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen yet. As I watch the macro environment, it's not just the raising interest rates of the Fed. They're also doing quantitative tightening. So they're removing liquidity from the system. And I think that all of the corporations that are, publicly traded, they got to watch their balance sheets extra closely right now. I do have optimism that 2023, won't be like 2022, which is one of the worst years in a long time, obviously, because we were ran up so much in 2020 and 2021. But I do think that they understand the value proposition of Bitcoin. So, when I was at Money 2020, and that was a conference, like a banking conference and a fintech conference, the banks there, they understand blockchain technology is real. They understand that they know it's the future, but they say some of them are looking into it now. Some of them are like, oh, in 1 to 2 years, maybe. So I do think they're going to essentially buy the dip. I just don't know if it's going to happen in the next 3 months, but I think they're going to load the boat.
All right, let's hope they do it the next 24 months, because hey, I'll sell into their I'll sell into them the next Pico top if they really want. All right, Caleb.
Right.
My question for you is: can Elon and Tesla turn it around heading into 2024? There's a lot of headwinds. We got Rivian, kind of the new player in the scene. We have the legacy automaker. You smirking now? The legacy automakers maybe trying to compete. What are your thoughts on that? And tell me your thoughts on the Rivian. Did I say it wrong?
I think it's the Rivian, right?
Rivian.
They make a pretty interesting truck, actually.
They do look cool.
They're pretty snazzy. Yeah. I don't think that there's anything fundamentally companies can necessarily be doing in this environment. It's like, as I look at Tesla, their fundamentals have improved drastically over the last year, over the last 2 years. They're still growing like crazy. They're increasing deliveries quarter after quarter. So from a fundamental perspective, the company seems to be doing quite fine. However, just because a company is innovative or fundamentals are strong doesn't necessarily mean that the stock price won't go down as interest rates continue to go higher. So that, for me, that's what it all kind of boils down to. Whether or not they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, Whatever the case is, this is a stock that's still trading at a 30 price to earnings ratio on a trailing 12-month basis. I think the S&P 500 on the aggregate is trading around 16, 17. So clearly, it's almost twice as expensive as the S&P 500. There's still more downside to be had if rates remain elevated. That's kind of how I see things.
All right. Well, you give a more favorable ratio or least favorable ratio to stocks on the way up, a growth stock. So are you suggesting that maybe Tesla's growth days are no longer ahead of them?
No, I mean, I would argue that they'll still grow. Obviously, you're always going to have the law of diminishing marginal return. So as the law of large numbers goes up, you're not going to be able to sustain that same growth rate over time. They're still going to be considered a growth stock just because of, the increasing kind of adoption curve of, electric vehicles on the aggregate. So now it's just a matter of whether or not they can keep the market share with competitors like Rivian, Lucid Motors, NIO, so on and so forth.
All right, just real quick, just a simple numerical answer. Elon, in the middle of the night, tweets, I found my new Twitter CEO. Let's just say he didn't even give a name. The next day, what's Tesla's stock move? I'm going to say 7% to the upside.
10%.
Yeah, I could see that. I would say like at least 5%. Yeah, to the upside.
At least
if
5.
he announced a new CEO.
Cassius, what number would you give it there, Cassius?
I'd give it 10%. I think Tesla will fly. I think
10%.
Rip.
Brad, what would you say? What's that pump going to look like the next day?
Man, in these market conditions, I like 5% myself. I think 10% is getting a little bit exuberant.
All right. Now, mind your biz. I won't ask for a prediction. Feel free to give it. But my question to you is similar to Tesla buying stocks. Hey, how do you do, fellow kids? My question to you is, there's a whole nother industry when it comes to Bitcoin that are publicly traded that we have talked about before, but we haven't mentioned tonight, and that is oil companies. Do you think that we might see some of the smaller Fortune 500 players in the oil game, the refinery side specifically? Or is it possible that they might start mining some Bitcoin?
Well, it's a tough question to answer. And as far as the smaller oil companies getting into Bitcoin mining, I mean, this is just something. This is also like a fact. They've been in that early phase of discovery to see whether to see if it's feasible, right? For the last couple of years, it's been 2019 that all of the major oil interests that they've been looking and just taking inventory about how many different operations they have where they can recapture stranded energy at the point of drilling, right? Anywhere that you have methane flaring, you've got an opportunity, right, to be able to mine some Bitcoin or mine anything else that you can convert that energy into. You also have the possibility of co-generation of that energy. So is it something that's going to happen now? No, DZ, it's been happening, right? So whether or not they actually deploy and they actually act on that opportunity while we're in the middle of a bear market has yet to be seen. And I think what's difficult as far as making these predictions when it comes to Bitcoin, seeing companies either add cryptos, like Bitcoin and other cryptos, onto their balance sheets or beef up their infrastructure plays during bear markets, is that unfortunately, historically, they haven't done it to the level that they should. In my opinion, they haven't capitalized to the level that they should. I think that we'd see them absolutely take over the crypto markets if they did. So on the one hand, be very, very bullish, to be internal at one of these companies during these bear market conditions, seeing them buy up all of the infrastructure or buy up all of the coins. But on the other hand, for retail, that would suck, bro. Like they'd be able to take over in just one or two more cycles. Like it would stop being a retail player's game, and we would be totally priced out before long. So, I mean, on the one hand, like I think it'd be great for them to look at it. And as a consultant, like I wouldn't say no to that phone call from an ExxonMobil or some other group saying, hey, help us figure out whether or not this is viable. But on the other hand, we would be, I mean, I'd be slitting my neighbors' throats in retail side of crypto. So yeah, it's a complicated thing. But
50 years from now, what kind of odds would you put on a dystopian future where only big energy is mining Bitcoin? Is this like a 1% possibility?
Years from now,
50% possibility? I know it's very hard to
I'm
speculate
going to say 50 years from now, we're extremely lucky if 50 years from now AI hasn't decided to nuke all human life from off the face of the planet. Right. So I'm just saying any energy that we get, we're good.
Bearish on the human population. He's prepping right now. He's prepping right now. All right, my question for you is Brad Varnell, when it comes to Bitcoin on these balance sheets, we talked about oil companies, we talked about Tesla, but we're not talking about what it does to the average market. Now, most of the movement from Elon, it wasn't the market buys, right? It was, he did it for a full quarter. Then they announced it in December. Hey, this is what we did the previous 3 months. all the movement came from the announcement to his quarterly filings with the SEC. Do you think now, as we get more sophisticated with on-chain data, are we ever going to be able to decipher that, hey, I see corporation A, B, and C, it looks like they're maybe getting into the game here, and is it possible that that hits the YouTube sphere, the Twitter sphere? Is it possible we might know a little bit better versus Tesla, or are they going to try to hide it from us?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I answer that question, I want to touch on one thing that Mine Your Biz said. For all of you that are watching the show today, it's my personal opinion that we only have 1 or 2 more cycles to take advantage of this as retail investors, no matter what happens. I could be wrong, folks. Maybe we get a little bit longer than that, but if you really want to change your life in cryptocurrency investing, right now, this next 5 to 10 years is where it's at. There's going to come a time where it's saturated enough. There's enough of these big companies that have come in and have bought it up. It's in everybody's 401k programs and stuff like that, that yeah, crypto will be someplace where you can earn your 5 or 10 or 15 or 20% a year potentially, kind of like the stock market now. But if you really want to take advantage of the super 50, 100,000x gains that are possible, this cycle coming up in 2024, 2025 is the time to do it.
All right.
I'm going to co-sign that from Brad. This is I'm wearing my grab the bag mask right now.
I pulled mine down, but right. I don't have eye holes.
And then on to your second question, man, there's definitely a lot of smart people out there that are going to start to figure this stuff out. Now, the big corporations are going to do everything that they can to hide that information, but let's face it, a lot of these guys aren't the most intelligent when it comes to hiding some of this stuff and not letting it get leaked and protecting their wallets. We've seen all of the hacks. We've seen everything that's happened. So absolutely, I think there's some guys in the crypto space that are spending a lot of time trying to figure these things out, because let's face it, if you know Tesla just bought, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and nobody else in the world knows it, that's a pretty powerful information to have. So I definitely think that we're going to see some leaks. We're going to see some things hit Twitter, and that some of these corporations are going to get found out before they actually make it public knowledge.
All right, that would be some strong alpha there. All right, last question on Tesla and Bitcoin. Cassius, part of the narrative of Tesla stock going down was Bitcoin's price crashing. When we fell that first crash in April, Tesla stock took quite a tumble. They had billions of dollars of Bitcoin exposure. This was before they sold. Let me get the exact number here. It was 810, it looks like. Or no, there's 704. So they sold a lot of Bitcoin, sold it for a lot of money there. Kind of took a little bit of the heat off their back. Is Bitcoin's price volatility, is that actually too big of a hurdle for these companies? Because when the price goes up, sure, it looks great. But when it goes down and it hurts your share price, you're going to have a lot of pissed off people. So is that a hurdle that we can eventually overcome? Or is that always just going to be, something kind of stopping this mainstream adoption with corporations?
Well, I do think it's a hurdle, but I do think it's a hurdle we can overcome, because eventually price stability, I think, will come to Bitcoin, right? As more people hold it for a longer period of time as a store of value, as more corporations hold it on their balance sheet, as the price goes up, it won't be as volatile. I definitely believe that. But Brad also made a good point talking about how corporations have to answer to shareholders. And so in one sense, it is going to be more scary for them, because they don't have the option to just, hodl, lock it in cold storage and just wait it out like we can in retail. So I definitely think that that's something that's going to make it a little bit harder for them to go, everyone's not going to go full Michael Saylor, if you will. I also want to say that one of the reasons that Tesla stock share price is falling is because Elon Musk sold shares 4 times over the course of the year, billions of dollars worth. Yep. And, he said multiple times he wasn't going to sell, then he ended up finding out he sold more. So I don't necessarily think that Bitcoin's volatility is what brought down Tesla. Part of it was ran up to an extraordinarily high multiple in the first place, which is something that, Caleb was talking about. And, relative to not just the S&P, but to even the other stocks, the big tech stocks, it had a really high multiple. And, the rising interest rates, the quantitative tightening, it was almost inevitable it had to pull back. Then when you add on Elon Musk, different antics and weird things going on, whether it be with Twitter and people saying he's taking his eyes off the prize, off the ball of managing Tesla, it's just exacerbating it more and more at times when there could be dead cat bounces and things like that. But I definitely want to stick by my 10% jump, because I just seen Tesla jump over 5% on way worse news than something like Elon Musk.
Yeah,
paying
and you
more
bring up a
attention
good
to
point. It
being
was
real
three. Musk recently, his recent sell of Tesla stock was $3.5 billion worth. So, full disclosure, I started scaling into Tesla actually this morning, less than 5% of what I intend to purchase over the next 12 months. So this is a long-term
DCA.
purchase. Yeah, it's a DCA strategy, because when they're very volatile, like a Tesla, like a crypto, DCA is definitely going to be a safer strategy. Trying to find that exact bottom, that exact top.
Absolutely.
You're not going to really be successful with that strategy. All right, let's talk Solana. And Solana, and of course, SBF and the headwinds that they're facing. The debate is accelerating. We have tons of competitors coming out of the woodwork. And the main reason we want to talk about is Solana hit a major milestone. I hope you're sitting down if you have a big bag of it. It fell below $10. If we go to the price chart here, it's going to be not that long ago, it was $20, but yeah, right there, $20. That's when I first started accumulating. And then $10 haven't been seen since February of 21, so almost 2 years ago now. Mine Your Biz. I see. I don't want to say glee. I don't want to see. Maybe this is just leftover Christmas cheer. What are your thoughts on Solana when you see that price chart, and given all of its issues? I think it's fair to say.
Well, first things first, it's always a bad sign to see any kind of project suffer. I don't want to make it sound like I'm laughing at any individual's expense or any group's expense, right? I don't want to denigrate these projects carelessly either, right? A lot of work goes into these projects, a lot of work goes into these networks, a lot of work goes into promoting them, especially. But yeah, this is one of those things where like the fundamentals weren't there. You had over a half dozen validator node resets. You had all kinds of obvious censorability. You had Chamath and others speaking publicly about their plans to dump the token price at the first opportunity.
What's your thoughts on the
talking
outages?
Openly.
What are your thoughts on the outages specifically? How would you explain that to a layman who says, why does this go down all the time?
I would tell them that it's something like California's power grid, that it's not going to be there when you need it most, and that even though you're being told that you live in the most performant microeconomy of the developed world, that it's a lie, right? So it's just a lie. Like you're being told that it's the most high performance thing that's ever been invented in the modern world, but you see with your own eyes that it doesn't work when you need it. So that's what I would say to anybody who who asks about the Solana validator node outages, is that the network itself failed on so many occasions. Now there were also some bad breaks, and that happens in crypto, right? You don't always get to choose which wallet maker is going to have an insecure wallet and then leak a bunch of people's seed phrases and have all of their holdings stolen on your watch. That's not something that FTX or that Solana did. It just happened to be a bad break, and it could have happened to anybody. It could have happened to Avalanche or Polygon or Cardano or anybody else, right? Heaven forbid, right? Knock on wood. It would be terrible if that sort of thing happened to Nami Wallet. It would wreck the entire ecosystem. But it just happened to happen to Solana. And in addition to all those other validator node resets, it's like, why would you even bother building on it anymore? When Utes announced its move to Polygon, I said, okay, it's about time. Like, who else is going to finally just decide, like, it doesn't matter what kind of wreckage we leave behind, we have to save our community.
Yeah, and those who don't know, Utes was and Frank D. God's huge Solana collections, and Polygon gave them $6 million to migrate over to Polygon, and it seems like it was a refuted rumor. They did not ask Solana for $5 million. That just seemed to mostly be a rumor. All right, Caleb, I know you're not a programmer, but I'm going to ask you this question because you have glasses, and you know how this channel feels about people with glasses. Talking about Solana, it uses a programming language called Rust. Well, there's a competing L1 that uses Rust, and that's the Near protocol. What do you think, just from a game theory perspective, what are these Near developers going to do? Do you think that they're gonna stick it out and now's the time to pick yourself up from the bootstraps, let's rebuild Solana from the ground up? Or do you think that they're gonna look over maybe some are considering the new shiny thing over there? So I mean, how do you feel about the Rust ecosystem when it comes to these builders? Are they all migrating?
Yeah, so I'll preface this by saying I'm certainly not a technologist, and I literally know nothing at all about the Near protocol, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head thinking about it from like a game theoretical standpoint, right? So if programmers have the ability to switch over to another ecosystem that might be a little bit more reliable and it's not being shut down as much, and maybe the price is a little bit more secure because it wasn't VC pumped, right? I mean, I don't know if it was VC pumped, right? So like I said, I'm not sure. Yeah, that could certainly happen again, and I don't even know what necessarily the risks are in terms of switching from one protocol to the next. What happens to, existing relationships? Are those able to be easily transferred? I just don't know those things. So I'm sure a lot of people across the entire crypto ecosystem are asking similar questions right now, and across a variety of different protocols, and saying, hey, should I be looking at Avalanche? Should I be looking at Polygon? Should I be looking at Arbitrum? Whatever, right? Like I literally don't know. So. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, and especially with Solana now getting back under $10, right? We're kind of seeing that same kind of cascading price pressure that we're seeing in that Tesla chart. And so, hey, maybe people get even more anxious to hop out of that ecosystem because they're saying, what are we even here for if this project is just going to fail?
All right, good points there. All right, Brad Varnell, what is the biggest obstacle preventing Solana to make a comeback? Can it be resurrected, or do we need to call Undertaker and Kane's manager Paul Bearer?
Man, maybe it's just because I love the underdog,
I thought you were going to say
Undertaker. Like we talked about on a couple of shows. I've had some good luck with some projects that either got hacked or really had some bad news happen to them, but they didn't go out of business, and I was able to scoop up some at some bargain basement prices. We were talking about Parsec a couple of weeks ago. I still think that Solana is going to figure its way out of this basement. I do have a decent amount of Solana NFTs, and I've got a couple that I'm excited about that maybe keep me more optimistic than I should be. But I think that Solana is gonna rebound. It's got a big community, good, bad, or indifferent. It does have a big community that really does support it and stand by it. And I do think that there's going to be a certain amount of that community that just kind of sticks with it through thick and thin. And I think that, if my own dad came to me and said, hey, what do you think about scooping up some Solana at these under $10 prices? I would say, yeah, I think there's a pretty good risk reward situation going on there. I think you have the possibility to do very, very well with that, during the next bull market. So I still think that Solana's got some hope. I do like Matic and some of the Avalanche better at this point. I think those are probably wiser places to put your money, but I certainly wouldn't fault anybody that decided they wanted to roll the dice and throw some money at Solana at this point.
All right, great point, but don't let that distract you from the fact that in 1998 the Undertaker threw mankind off the Hell in a Cell and plummeted 16 feet through an announcer's table. All right, final question here, Cassius. I'm looking at that total value locked metric. It's making its way all over crypto Twitter right now. Solana's total value locked has plummeted 98%. What are you looking at as far as feasibility on Solana coming back? Is this dead in the water? Is there a chance here? Are you putting it at 50-50? Is it going to be stronger than ever? What's your Solana thoughts for this upcoming next bull run?
Well, one thing I definitely want to touch on with Solana is that, SBF was backing it tremendously, which potentially, allegedly, could be part of the reason why it pumped so much in the first place. So it definitely had a long way to come down. And, as far as total value locked, how much was real value in the first place, not really sure. Now, I'm not very bullish on Solana. I did buy the dip kind of for the same reason Brad was talking about, kind of a risk versus reward. $500, not like a lot of money, not life-changing for me. But, if they get their acts together, it could be a good trade. I don't actually believe in it long term as the best layer one at all. Everyone knows me. I'm an Algorand guy. I'll say that with a lot of confidence as far as L1's proof of stake protocols. But I don't think Solana. I traded Solana back, when it was pumping, significant last year in 2021. But I don't. The outages and stuff like that. That's just not how a layer one blockchain should work. And once I found out Sam Bankman-Fried was backing it, made me feel like there's going to be a lot of manipulation. This was before this all went down with him. I never trusted that guy. So now, who is going to be the one that's really helping pump the narrative for Solana? It's kind of tough. They do have a big community, and I usually hear this, that the community likes them because of their NFTs. Well, as far as proof of stake protocol NFTs, we got a whole nother cycle coming, and all the other layer ones are going to start having them too. So I don't know if that's enough to really keep Solana afloat.
All right, that's good points there. One quick question. Is there any price target where you would say, maybe this is not bad for speculation?
Yeah, $10. Yeah.
Okay, so this is not bad, not terrible speculation.
Not bad. Like, it's kind of like when you said your DCA. Yeah, you said your DCA, you put in 3-5% or something like that. You know, if you think that there's a chance of it coming back on the next, I think almost everything that doesn't die is going to have a good bounce.
Yeah.
Once the Fed is done raising, it'll be guns blazing. I can drop a bullish song in a recession. I'm telling you, everything's going to have some kind of a bounce. Now, will it go to the moon, or we're not rushing straight back to their all-time high? But I definitely think this is there for a trade. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I agree with Brad. I wouldn't make it a top 3, top 5 coin, but if you want to speculate, I think that $10 range is, you know, quite fair. I traded out most of it after FTX, kept a little bit, and yeah, I mean, it's probably a long-term hold for me at this point. If it goes to $5, I don't know if I'll buy any. If it goes to $3, yeah, I'll probably buy some. Who knows? But that is all we have time for, and it looks like Mine Your Biz took it home. Mine Your Biz, feel free, leave us with some parting thoughts, sir, and let us know how you feel about Sam Bankman, Solana, and all the good stuff that we've had happen in 22.
Well, first off, I appreciate you having me back on the channel. It's always a pleasure being here and learning from people who are smarter than I am at other sides of the cryptocurrency skill set, because it's a lot that you have to learn. So I appreciate the diversity of opinion, thought, and expertise that is always here on Around the Blockchain. I'm just flattered you guys keep inviting me back. Please hit sub.myb.lol. That supports my channel. And I can't wait to see the BitSquad over at the new home for Around the Blockchain.
All right. And yeah, moving next month, make sure you follow that, and we'll have a link in the description. And make sure you follow every guest that we have on today. They're all putting out really great content in their unique ways. That's all we got, BitSquad. Until next time, peace out.